Welcome back to Jurgen's Kitchen. Today I'm going to do what I promised you guys at the first of the semester, and that's to do the world cuisine. We've done some French cuisine, we've done Italian cuisine, we've done some Asian cuisine. Today we're going to head to the Netherlands and do Dutch pancakes, or, and I'm sorry for this, for butchering this, pannenkoeken, which is a Dutch pancake which can be served in savory or sweet. So let's get started with the batter. Okay, so here we go, folks. We're ready to start, and I've got 4 cups of milk. So I'm going to add my milk to my bowl, and I'm going to add my 4 eggs. And I'm just going to whip that all up. Now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of coarse salt. If you don't have coarse salt, don't use about maybe a teaspoon of regular salt. Coarse salt isn't as, I don't know how to say this. Well, it's just not as bulky, or if you use teaspoons of other salt, it's going to be way too salty. So I'm just going to give you all this whipped up, which I've already done, and I'm going to add my flour a little bit at a time. And as I do that, I'm going to whisk it all in together. And it's 4½ cups of flour. And as it starts to thicken up, now there's no leavening agent in here. There's no baking powder, there's no baking soda. It all comes from the eggs. Any rise at all will come from the leavening action of the eggs. Now if you have an electric blender or mixer at home, you can use that. Just put it on the whip and just, again, it's adding your flour a little bit at a time. I have an electric blender, I was too lazy to get it out. By the time I get it out, I'd have it done. So I'm just going to whip this all together. And you want to try to get it as lump-free as you possibly can. You can see as you add the flour, it starts to thicken up, and it really is starting to become a batter. As I mentioned before, we're probably going to move down once a week with the videos. My camera person is working part-time, and her schedule may not allow us, well, won't allow us to do it twice a week. Rest of my flour in, and then just whip this in until it's as lump-free as you can get it. If you have an electric blender, I suggest you use it. If you don't, well, just take your time and whisk it all together. Your arm will get tired, but that's okay. So once I've got this all done, I'm going to put it in the fridge for an hour and let everything rest. It really helps to let the gluten and everything kind of relax, and it makes for a better batter and a better pour. Okay, there we go. Nice and smooth. I'm just going to cover it and put it away. Okay, so now we've rested our batter for over an hour now, and it's ready to go. It's got a nice texture to it, and I'm gonna make both. Like I said, I'm gonna make a savory and I'm gonna make a sweet. I'm gonna start with the sweet first. So what I want to do is I want to use apples for this one. And as you can see, I've sliced my apples really, really thin. Okay. And I just want to put a little bit there. And I'm just going to very carefully slice a few more apples. Just make sure you keep your hands away. Remember the technique I've taught you guys. And always work to the flat. And then just kind of keep them nice and thin as you can possibly do it. Okay, so there we go. So my apples are ready, my sugar's ready, my cheese is ready, and my pan should be ready. Now what I've done is I've added a little bit of oil to the pan. Right? And I don't want it hot, I want it just about medium heat. And I want to make sure that I have lots of coverage on the pan. Now this calls for an 8-inch pan. Okay, so I've got 8 inches, an 8-inch pan here. And I don't want to overflow it. Dutch pancakes are like crepes, except they're a little thicker. They're not as thick and fluffy as a Canadian style pancake, but they're still a pancake and whatnot. So here's what I want to do. I just want to get my batter, which is really nice and thick right now, and that's from the resting. And I just want to put it on my pan. And I want to get it all over the pan. So they're not going to be as thin as crepes, but here's the difference. While it's setting up, I'm going to start putting everything in the pan now. I'm going to put my sugar cinnamon in there. I'm going to put my apples in there. Now I had these, the first time I ever had these was on one of my school trips to Amsterdam. Okay, now I'm just going to finish it up with a little bit of cheese. Now I'm going to let that start to set up, and I'm going to let that cook a little bit. And I want those apples to start to give off a lot of their juices. And I'm just going to finish up with a little bit of more cinnamon on top of the apples. Then I want to make sure that it's ready to flip. There you go, folks. It's not that easy, but it's not that hard either. You just got to have the motion, go with it. I'm going to let that cook up a little bit more. I'm going to let the finish up there, and in about another minute or two, we'll have our pancakes. Just going to get my plate ready. There we go, there's our pancake. Last thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of syrup. In Holland, or in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, this would be served with what's called a stroop, which is a special kind of apple. Well, it's made from fruit, but mainly apples and anisette, or 5-star anise, and it has a really different taste to it. I don't have all the ingredients here to make it today, so I didn't make it. So we're just going to add a little bit of a Canadian touch to it. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to move into the savory time, and I want to use some fresh ingredients from my garden. So I'm going to use fresh basil, and I'm just going to trim off a little bit like that, and maybe one more little piece right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a chiffonade, which is just a cut, right? So what I want to do is I just want to kind of put it together, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. I just roll it up and then just run your knife through it, and you can see you get what's called the chiffonade. Nice fresh basil. Oh, it's got a beautiful smell to it. And I'm also going to use a little bit of thyme. Now the thyme I'm not going to chiffonade. I'm just going to cut off a piece. And then I'll pull those off when it comes time. All right, so let's get started. Now, the same idea, I want to get my pan going. And I want it not hot, but I want it hot. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to the pan. And I'm just going to make sure that it's all well coated. So I'm just going to take my pan should be nice and hot. Remember, we're not going for a crepe, we're going for a Dutch pancake. Now, instead of the sweet, I'm going to add the fresh basil all over. And the fresh thyme, and all I'm doing is just pulling the little bits off and putting it in my pan. Now a lot of times, and this is what we had this for supper when I was in the Netherlands that time. It was one of our nights out and we had it for dinner. Now I'm going to add my salami. Now, I've got a couple of different kinds here, and I'm just going to make sure that they cook up inside. Right, now I'm going to wait on my cheese. I found the last time, unless you've got a really non-proof stick pan, that it's best to flip it back once again and then add your cheese, because it just didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. Just have to make sure that it's really setting up. And this is going to take a little bit longer. It's okay, just make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. Heat's a little high. And we're just going to let that set up a little bit more than what it already is. Just want to finish up that little bit of the pan. Turn my heat right off. Here we go. Now I'm going to add my cheese, and I'm using a Gouda here. Okay? Put it down there, and then just spread it around. Let it do its thing. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a Dutch pancake or a pancakes. Again, I apologize. Try that at home. Just be careful about the flipping. And you know what? Enjoy. And remember this, I'm Chef Yurden, and somebody's going to love you. It's just not me.